Good evening and welcome to a rather special program on This Must Be the Place. It was just about 9 years ago when a young man stopped by the WCCO television lobby one afternoon with a record album. Now this is a rather common occurrence. This young man had just left the Mitchell Trio, and he was a single for the first time, doing a single act, appearing at the Gollywog Lounge at the Sheraton Ritz Hotel. He made his first appearance as a single here on This Must Be the Place. He's done very, very well since that time. His name is John Denver, and tonight our whole program, a conversation with John Denver. We'll get started right after this break. Great many things have happened to John Denver in the last 9 to 10 years. He, of course, has traveled all over the world to packed concerts. Every country of the world he's performed have had standing ovations for him. He's sold a remarkable number of record albums. As a matter of fact, so many record albums that he is now in the same category as Elvis Presley and the Beatles in terms of total sales. He most recently has made a motion picture with, of all people, George Burns. A couple of weeks ago, cinematographer John Carlson and I went to Los Angeles to meet with John, and we filmed this interview talking first about the then early success of the motion picture Oh God here in the Twin Cities and the loyalty Twin Cities pay to John Denver. Just telling John Denver that you could have my favorite 35 millimeter slides and you'd make a fortune in Minneapolis.
Well, that's only with friends and family, I think.
Oh, well, of course, we all claim John Denver in the Twin Cities. You know, that brings up an interesting point. People in the Twin Cities are convinced that you grew up there. And of course we lay claim to John Denver because you lived there for a period of time, but why don't we straighten out that matter?
Very much like home to me, and it has to do with Annie and her family there. When I first started working as a single performer, we still lived in Minnesota, and I was with the Mitchell Trio before that, and Annie and I got married, and after our first year of marriage we lived in Chicago, and we moved up to Edina. And so really as things started happening for me in my music, you know, the very first television show that I was ever on by myself when I had left the Mitchell Trio and was going to go out to sing was when I was working at the old Gollywog Lounge at the Ritz, the Sheraton Ritz, and I was on your show, Bill.
I remember that.
So there are a lot of ties that go back there, and it pleases me that the people of Minnesota have adopted me. It certainly feels like home to me.
Actually, your high school home would have been in Texas?
In high school, I was in Texas, yes. That's ages ago, yes.
The Rocky Mountains are synonymous with John Denver now, though. I remember even while you were back living in the Twin Cities, when you used to go out and visit the mountains, there was something very special about your thoughts and feelings about the mountains when you came back.
Well, you know, when I was a child, we lived in Tucson, Arizona, and my father used to take myself and some friends out every once in a while. I think he really enjoyed getting out in the woods. He was born and raised on a farm, and he liked getting out of doors. And he and my younger brother Ron would kind of walk around someplace while some friends of mine and I would see if we could climb that peak and get up to the top over there or whatever. And, somehow the mountains have always had a very strong hold on me, and from the first time that I visited Aspen, which was when I was courting Annie, that was the place. It was those mountains, the Rocky Mountains, the streams, the way they are, the way it looks, the color of the earth, the color of the sky there, and that's where my heart is always, is there in those mountains at home.
Very poetic surrounding, isn't it?
Oh, I think so. Yeah, I think so. It's also one of the wonderful things it is for me. I think that I'm blessed in my life to have found a place to live like that in the midst of all the things that go on in the work that I do. You know, this working out here I think can get very crazy sometimes, and
out here being Los Angeles.
Los Angeles, Hollywood, or New York, either one of those two, and probably any big city. And I think it's the same for anybody in any field of endeavor. When they start attaining a certain kind of success, it can get crazy. But one of the saving graces in my life is that I'm able to leave all of this and to go back home to those mountains. They've been there for years. They've been there longer than this city has been here, and the same stars come around each year, and I get to look at them through my telescope, and it's a very settling place for me. and helps me keep straight in my life, and I value that.
John, how have you learned to cope with the people who impose on your privacy or impose on your life?
Well, it takes a little bit of working out. Ann and I were able to go see. We went to see Oh God last night.
Oh God!
At
George Bush, John Denver, and the whole gang.
Yes, isn't that ridiculous?
Isn't it marvelous?
It is wonderful.
Oh,
wonderful.
we loved it.
But anyway, we went to see it last night. I've not seen it with an audience, you know, and we went, and I dropped Annie off, and she ran to get tickets, and I went and parked the car, and we went running in just as it was starting, after everybody was in, and found a seat, and we were able to do it without anybody knowing we were there or anything like that, and as opposed to calling up and setting it up or anything like that, just to go and be it like we used to run down to the theaters in Minneapolis late at night. Ann and I would have dinner, and we'd finish about 9 o'clock and jump in the car and race downtown and see if we could make it to a 10 o'clock movie.
Right.
And we'd always just get in there just at the last moment, and just enough time for Ann to get some popcorn and go to the movies, and we were able to do that last night. It was a real pleasure for me then to go in and enjoy that movie with the audience.
That movie has done very, very well, but it's more than just a fun experience, isn't it? That movie means something to you.
It really does.
Philosophically, doesn't it?
Yeah. The primary reason that we did that particular film, people have been sending us scripts for a few years now. You know, there's been an interest in doing movies, and Jerry had started producing films, Jerry Weintraub, with Nashville. And so we knew we were going to do that sooner or later, and we were waiting to get just the right script and to be able to do it the way we've done other things, which is when we could be in control of it and really take responsibility for every aspect of the film, or whatever it was we were doing. The same thing applied in television and in records. And but the thing that was so marvelous to me is that the movie, I think that there's some truth in that film, and I think that there's a truth in some of the things that God says about the world that are things that people can relate to, emotional ties that they might have with the film that I think will stay with them for a long time after they forget the jokes and the fun that's there. I think that there's some truth in it too, and I was really pleased about that.
You said a few minutes ago that there's another movie, at least in the thinking stage, if not more than that. Does that mean there's a reorientation of your priorities in your life?
No, I don't think so. It's, you know, one of the ways that it changes, what you were talking about a while ago, is that it's expanded in so many ways. And whereas before, when we first met, what I was trying to do mainly, I had made a record and knew I was going to be doing that each year for a while if I was lucky, if I had any success at all with the records, but mostly I was doing concerts and things, and I was in a position of taking everything that I could get.
Mm-hmm.
And now there are so many things that you can't possibly do that, and it's expanded. It's not just concerts, it's concerts and television, and now there are movies also, and now it's not just concerts here and putting together a concert tour here, which is the way we need to do it, but we're going to Australia. And so it's like the numbers have changed. The size of it has expanded incredibly, and still I feel that it's still the same thing that I was doing a few years ago, you know, singing songs and communicating about what is so in my life through whether it's television or films or whatever. It's still the same thing that I'm involved in.
John, we've known each other for a great many years, and I don't recall a time when you weren't confident that this was all going to happen.
Well, I think that there were some times when I was doubtful, when I didn't know if I was doing the thing that I was supposed to be doing in the universe. But I always felt, it's like when and I know that we've talked about this before, before I got the recording contract with RCA, during that time when I worked at the Gollywog Lounge, every place that I went, it started off kind of slow, but people kept coming back and bringing their friends, you know. And that time out there on stage singing for people always worked. And that's all that I was really doing at the time. And it kept growing, and when I couldn't get a recording contract, and when I couldn't get some bookings sometimes, that was the thing that held on for me. I know that this thing works here. You can see it. You can feel it when you're up there. You know, when you're doing that thing that you do and you feel good about it, It's like I read a wonderful article in Newsweek last week by a woman who wrote something in the My Turn section, My Turn, and she says, work is not a four-letter word, and she described most articulately, and in fact the first time that I've ever heard a woman say it, she described what work was to her, and the excitement that she felt each day in doing this thing that she could lend herself to, and to give it some sense of excellence, or to attain that every once in a while, to do more today, to do better today than you did yesterday, having grown some. And she applied it not only to work in some kind of profession, but into the work of being a housewife, which is perhaps the most underrated job in the world. And I think it's quite a job and takes extraordinary adaptability and strength to handle responsibly. But I love my work. I love what it is that I do, and I always get up ready to go today. You know, we've been out here working on an album, and to get up in the morning, to go, having been in the studio for 12 hours straight, and to go home exhausted and already I can't wait to get some sleep under my belt so I can come in and start working on this album again tomorrow morning. It's a wonderful feeling.
After the somewhat mixed cover story in Newsweek magazine, which had a lot of John Denver fans grumbling, do you still read Newsweek?
No.
John, we all saw that article in Newsweek. What did you think of that?
I was very disappointed. You know, a lot of work went into that particular article. We were excited about having the opportunity of doing an interview with someone that we held in such high esteem as Newsweek magazine. And what happened for me in that is that the story got so turned around, some things were so misquoted or taken out of context as to be pointedly used in a way to negate what I feel I'm trying to do in the world. And that a magazine like that allows that to go on is very discouraging to me. I find that I can no longer read Newsweek and take anything in it seriously.
John, one of the things that goes along with the success you've had, however, is the vulnerability of that position too. You know, when you're up on top of a hill, you make a very easy target, and I guess that's one of the things you have to accept, isn't it?
Oh, I think so, and it's not a vulnerability. I think that you're exposed in a remarkable kind of way, and because of the expansiveness or the numbers or the size of what you're dealing with, when the successes are very great, then the lows are also enhanced in that kind of way, and that gets out there. There are a lot of people who like to take shots at those who are doing well to bring them down into the ordinary level. Somehow they feel the need to. They think that somebody is up here and they want to bring them down here, and they try so hard to find some things in here that don't make you seem so big. You know, but the interesting thing about that to me is that it's from their point of view, they've put you up here and feel the need to bring you back. And that's just an interesting thing about it to me, because I strive so very intensely to stay right here. I've got no place up there, you know.
It's interesting, you know, it's impossible to take away a person's dignity. The person has to do that themselves.
Yes.
No writer, no satirist, no commentator can take away another person's dignity.
Absolutely. There's nothing that anybody can say about you or do to you that will change your own sense of yourself. You know who you are. Quite often you try to hide that to people. Quite often you try to misrepresent yourself to people. But in the end, it's always right there in front of you. And it's that thing which will sustain you and which will be your strength or will be your downfall. And in regard to those people who are, you know, who aren't that into the thing that I'm doing, who don't like my music or don't believe who I represent myself to be, I can't do anything about that. The only thing that I can do is be as honestly as I can myself to all people in all situations, and that will, you know, sooner or later people will get it.
John, one of the other changes perhaps since we last talked, on the air at least, is you've become a family man.
Yes, sir.
That's a big difference in your life, isn't it?
It enhances everything. I think that being a father is the epitome of being a man. I think that being a mother is the epitome of womanhood. And I don't mean to negate any of those women who choose a different kind of role and who seek after professional vocations or whatever. But just in my experience, the things that I relate to, the things that really mean something to me, being a very aggressive and dedicated professional man, which I feel that I am, to the work that I do, there is still a thing about being a father that is so much larger than all of that and so much deeper than all of that. And maybe that's not true to say that it's deeper. I can't imagine not singing. I think that comes from the very center of my soul. But also I feel that way about my wife and my children. And to have these little children now, it's like last spring, I've taken some time off. When we finished Oh God, I took a good 6 months off to step away from all of this and to make sure that I was doing what I wanted to do, that it was not going to run away with me, and that I was focusing the way I wanted to focus in regard to all these different things, the possibilities that are coming up now to do all of these different things. You can't do everything. And so what do I really want to do? And I had a chance to go to Washington one day. I testified in front of Congress in regard to a wilderness bill that's in front of the legislature now. And I spoke to these people about taking my little boy Zachary on his first hike up to a place called Hunter Creek, which was a part of the bill, and talked to him about introducing him, pointing out the wildflowers and tracings of wildlife there and fish in the stream. And Zach, there's a cutthroat trout, and he could see them, and that his discovery of this made it brand new for me. It was a totally new thing for me, and to be able to share this with my own little boy, and to watch his excitement in that discovery and his sense of wonder at some of the things that he saw that he's heard me talk about so much, and all of a sudden he was out there too. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience. And I know that each one of those guys on that committee could relate to that, because they have been in that situation too. There's a fellow up there from Alaska who was a very hard-nosed guy, and I felt I got to him a little bit, because he's been there. He's had his kid out with him in the woods.
John, there are those who would say about that and about much of your music, well, that's sentimental, that's emotional, that's not real, that's not facing the problems, that's masking them in some kind of sentiment. How do you respond to that?
Well, one of the things that I've learned is to trust my feelings. There are different things that people call that sometimes, emotions or sentiments or hunches, or just things that you can't really describe. It's like when you meet one person and immediately you like him.
Yeah.
You didn't know that guy, I've never seen him before, but you feel good being around that person. You meet somebody else and it doesn't make any difference. You meet some people that you're absolutely repelled by, you see. Now those are that to me is that truth we were describing earlier, that's always right there in front of you. And if you allow your inner ear or the whole ear or whatever to start listening to those voices, life really gets to be effortless and full of joy. What I observe, and in fact I have a song on this new album called Singing Skies and Dancing Waters, and it says, somehow in reason I lost sight of seasons, tides rolling out, rolling in. And what happens to me is that people they get all this noise and clamor going on in their mind that has to rationalize everything and explain everything and say that, no, that's not really how I feel, this has got to be what it is, or this is good, or that's bad, or this is right, or that's wrong, or this is better and that's worse. And that's all just noise. That's the noise of the street out there and the traffic. And when you listen inside, feelings work for me. The way that I feel, what comes up right now, right here, about what is going on, seems to be most often the truth of the situation, not the stuff that I start making up in my head about, is that really what I'm getting from this guy, or like that.
Whether you like it or not, or whether you have chosen to be so or not, you have become a spokesman for EST. What has EST meant in your life?
Well, EST was a really valuable experience for me. Andy and I took the EST training together, And it's simply the most interesting thing that I've come across. What happened for me in EST is that for the first time somebody or a group of people actually really articulated some things that I had felt all of my life, but nobody had said it like that. Nobody said it in a way that I could say, yeah, that's how I feel. That's exactly what I'm trying to say in that song. And Werner and EST did that for me. I don't feel that it changed my life. What it really did was acknowledge what I was getting out of life. And I think that there are a whole lot of people in the world today who are looking, who see that all of the stuff that we talk about, the noise that's going on, doesn't somehow work for them. And for some people it does. But for those who are looking and everything, there are a whole lot of avenues, different pathways to take perhaps, which provide an incredible assistance in dealing with yourself and really finding out who you are and being able to operate in this world that we live in. And EST I think EST provides that for many people. I love Werner. He's a dear friend, and I support him and what he's doing totally. I think that for anybody who's interested, who's inclined, that it would be an incredibly interesting experience for them and a valuable one. And I don't think that anybody has to take the EST training.
Who are the people other than your immediate family who are important in your life?
Well, I'd say most importantly is the people that I work with. Jerry Weintraub and Milt Okun and Hal Thaw are a trio of people. Milt Okun I've been involved with since back in the days when I first started working with the Mitchell Trio, and Hal Thaw shortly after that, and then Jerry Weintraub when I left the trio and started working on my own. And they're brilliant men, each in the field that they do.
Well, let's see now. Jerry Weintraub, of course, we know because he was associated with Elvis in the last couple of years, and certainly with Sinatra. Milt Okun now with the Starlight Vocal Band.
Starlight Vocal Band, and Milt originally was the producer for Peter, Paul, and Mary and the Mitchell Trio and the Brothers Four, like that. And Hal Thaw, I guess, is the one that's most behind the scenes. But the thing that I wanted to say about them most especially is that quite often in this business, the people who are around you really want you to keep on working and take advantage of those things that keep coming up. And what I was caught up in as the things started really growing for me, there were new and exciting things that were offered, and we wanted to take advantage of those things. And you don't know how long it's going to go. It's not like being a doctor or something like that. Quite often, and most often in this business, people will have a great success one year, and then it kind of tapers off again, and you have to take advantage of it while you can. And that kind of perhaps might lend some light on like Farrah Fawcett Majors and how she's handling her success over that Charlie's Angels television show. And it's good thinking to a large degree. But what happened with me is like last year when we finished Oh God, I really let all of these people know that I didn't want to do anything and didn't want to commit myself to anything. The contract was up with ABC Television. I still have a couple of albums to do for RCA, but I don't want to do anything until I feel like working again. And I got complete support from these guys who were totally willing to step back and away from it and let me step back and be away and get through whatever I had to get through to get straight with myself again and to get back on the right track, clear again in my head about what we wanted to do. And not in the kind of way where it was getting to be, as you described a moment ago, a real dissipation of energies, doing so much in so many different ways that all of them were kind of taking away from each other. And that's not the way I want to do it in the world. And so the lesson I had to learn, and I've learned it, I think.
That's a tough thing to do, too, because people are obviously going... You have to become just invulnerable or almost callous to the kind of criticisms you know you're going to get. People are going to say, John's coming apart a little bit. He's got a little extra strain, and perhaps he and Annie may not be getting along as well, or perhaps this... You gotta just be your own self and let them say whatever they want to say.
That's it, and to a large degree, people in this business start telling you, what you want to hear, and one of the ways that I'm blessed is in those three guys, and people like Barney Wyckoff and Chris O'Connor, who are two of my really good friends in Aspen, who work with me and travel with me. I don't very much go off on the road anymore when I'm going out to work. Ann and I might take a trip, just the two of us. But if I'm out working or anything like that, I generally have Barney and Chris along. And my other friends in Aspen, both the friends that I speak to and who speak back to me, and the mountains who I listen to perhaps in a different way, but they all keep me straight. And I'm grateful for that in my life. I feel that I'm very lucky.
Do you have to consciously, I don't know exactly how to ask this, do you have to consciously be aware of the fact that there are strange people in the world who maybe want a souvenir of John Denver's clothes, or who would interfere with your privacy or with your life in unfortunate ways?
Well, I would imagine that's possible, and we have a few experiences where people are trying to get to me, and it starts turning to be a little bit weird, and so we try to handle that as nicely as we can, and make sure that we're not getting erroneous information, and that whatever is going on is this way, and this is the way to handle it. Most often I find, or I feel, that I have a lot of friends out there, and I really enjoy treating it in that way. I've gotten to the point that I really don't enjoy signing autographs. You know, autographs to me are a very interesting thing. People come up, and I think that how autographs got started is that what they want to do is they want to come up and get close to you and have a chance to look in your eyes and see if you're this person that they do listen to on the record player, or that they have seen on television or in the movies. Whatever it is that draws them to you and how they see you doing whatever it is that you do, well, they want to see if that's who you really are. And so an autograph is an excuse to come over here and do that. But on my end over here, if I start just doing autographs and everything like that, then I kind of get stuck down here, and it draws other people over to get an autograph also. And what I would prefer to do is say, I don't want to sign it. I'd rather shake your hand. What's your name? And say hello to somebody and give them the chance to be there with you. And it's my feeling that that experience will last a lot longer than a piece of paper with a scribble on it, you see. And so that's what I strive to do. And when I explain that to people, well, yeah, that's fine. And then if they're very insistent about an autograph, or it's for their children or something like that, well, I say, give me your address and their names, and let me sign a picture and send it to you. And I can do that when I'm back at home and not out here. I have a chance to be with you. The other time is that it's a real intrusion. The only time, in fact, that I mind the people approaching me is when it affects the people who are with me. If it starts to bother them, then it is, in fact, an intrusion. And I regret that and try to handle it in whatever's the best way that you can at the time. But for myself, no, I have friends out there. I like meeting them. I like shaking their hands, looking them in the eye. And I like hearing them say that they enjoy my music. I like giving them the chance to tell me whatever it is they want to say. And I like letting them know that I appreciate that. I love singing for you. And I'm glad you like the music.
John, we can't leave without you showing the folks what you're wearing here.
This is a Nancy Nelson Carlson. Has that become a Fawcett Majors type thing in
No.
Minneapolis? Nancy Carlson shirt that she
From her
did
spring line of clothing, folks.
That's right. But I have several of these that Nancy made for me that I wear very, very pridefully in what she did, that she gave to me, that feels so good and I think looks good.
Nancy, get up off the floor. John, thank you very much. Enjoyed seeing you again, and certainly enjoyed visiting with you, and I'm sure our friends did too.
Bill, it's my pleasure. I'm really glad we had the chance to talk. You know, there are so many years that we have known each other and not really been able to spend time together the way I think we would both choose to, given the opportunity. But it's always a pleasure when I see, here's an old friend, and none of that has changed, regardless of everything else that's going on.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming out and talking.
Thank you.